The most fundamental principle of modern American jurisprudence on censorship is that censorship should not have a chilling effect on political discourse. Now, I have come out boldly and said, in a climate that rewards people for pretending they don't approve of any censorship whatsoever, that yes, I do approve of censorship. That is very fundamental that YouTube and PornTube are two different channels. Sorry, I'm not sure PornTube is a real website. It probably is. Anyway, there was RedTube, I think, is the point. Whatever. And look, that you create distinctions between different types of websites and that the distinctions are maintained by censorship. So another example, I had a really weird conversation with a longtime supporter and fan of the channel because she was shocked that I approved of censorship on Instagram, that Instagram prevents nudity. And I said to her, wait a minute, do you think it's hard to find a website where you can post a picture of yourself naked? Like, just Google it. Google naked woman. You'll find 5 or 6. It's completely crucial for the business model of Instagram, what it's trying to do, that they censor what people can upload so that it's a website with no nudity. And the results are kind of weird. A lot of what you see there is kind of 90% naked, but not quite naked. Well, those are the rules they play by. If they wanted to, they could change the rules again and get rid of all pictures of people in bathing suits. They could decide those are the rules. But whatever. My point is that all social and political discourse exists within certain stated limits. Ideally, those limits are transparent and simple and everyone can understand them and they're easily enforceable. On YouTube, they are not. On YouTube, in the last 5 years, we started off with a set of rules that were obfuscatory, unclear, opaque, open to interpretation and reinterpretation, and that were enforced in a way that kept people guessing, kept people trying to, what is this community guideline supposed to mean? Now, the ultimate problem, the ultimate price of those bad rules and bad enforcement is precisely that it has a chilling effect on political speech. Okay? I don't care if it has a chilling effect on nudity. There are other websites where you can post yourself naked. We can put up naked videos. Look, hypothetically, that could be a problem. We could be living in a parallel universe where it was just so difficult to find pornography. It was so difficult for people to upload amateur pornography themselves, and there was like a political struggle to try to create and defend websites where that was possible. All right? That's not the reality in the English-speaking world in 2019. There's ubiquitous access to that kind of thing. We don't have to worry about that. What we do have to worry about is exactly the chilling effect on political use of free speech, which is, in the American Constitution, that's why freedom of speech is protected, okay? Freedom of speech is actually not protected so that you can go out and claim that drinking holy water is going to cure pneumonia. And that's a real problem in the United States of America. It's less of a problem in a country like Germany that has a different constitutional tradition, different legal tradition. In the United States of America, members of any religion, whether Christianity, Hinduism, or Satanism, can say they have magical water that's going to cure your cancer or cure the pneumonia and sell it to you and make money. And because they call it religion, it's then outside the bounds of what the government will force. That's a real problem. Pseudoscience, phony cures for medicine. But that's actually not what the whole structure of freedom of speech exists for. It exists by and for politics. It's a political concept with a political purpose. That's what matters. And I myself have experienced the chilling effect of how broken YouTube's system is for censorship and categorization content. In their latest announcement, so this is yesterday, they put up a new policy. Let me just double check that it was yesterday. June 5th, I assume on the New York time zone. Today is June 6th. Yesterday, YouTube put up their new announcement, their new policy, which is only going to make things worse. What they're telling you is, what they're going to do is keep on assigning channels to a blacklist. A blacklist that's not transparent, that you can't see, that you can't appeal. This is totally different from the kind of censorship that goes on at Patreon in the past have talked about the fact that Patreon is a much, much better system, and the reality is they have about 10% of their staff costs are enforcing those mechanisms, censorship. Patreon is playing a totally different game by totally different rules. At YouTube, what happened to me was I made a video criticizing, excoriating, harshly criticizing a neo-Nazi on YouTube. And when I had the clips of the other side of the neo-Nazi speaking, I had text written at the bottom of the screen reminding you, explaining to you, pointing out I am only quoting this as part of a critique directed against. I'm quoting this in the middle of telling you how awful it is. Okay? And my video was taken down for hate speech. This happened to me twice that I remember with two different videos. It was completely obvious that my purpose was pointing the finger saying, hey, don't kid yourself. This guy is a neo-Nazi. In one case, he was a guy who openly stated, excuses for Adolf Hitler, that he basically supported the Holocaust. He was a straight-up Nazi in that sense. The other guy was more of a 21st century white supremacist, not attaching his theory to Adolf Hitler, but a different kind of racist. He was more of a British Empire racist white supremacist. I was pointing the finger saying, hey, look, you may not know it. And you know what? I got email from people thanking me because some of those people, they were fans of those other channels and they didn't realize the extent to which those channels were neo-Nazis, white supremacists, racists. Like, even on that basic level, the critique served a real function. One of them, Corey McCarthy, that guy was giving fitness and health advice and making money, and at that time he had a pretty big audience. And it came as a shock to a lot of people. Wow, they thought he was a good guy. They thought he was a moral guy. They just thought he was a bodybuilder who ate a healthy diet. And they realized, whoa, there's this whole other side of his career. This guy is seriously some kind of racist, right-wing political nutcase. So the critique is important. And the problem, it's not just poor little old me. It's not just, oh, I lost a few bucks. From that moment, from the moment I had two videos on my channel censored as quote-unquote hate speech, because I was criticizing hate speech. Mysteriously, the number of views and viewers on my channel have become a lot harder to get. I assume it's exactly what they describe in their announcement, June 5th, 2019, that they're going to discourage people from visiting those channels, that they're not going to recommend their videos, etc., etc. Well, okay, so I'm on the receiving end of that. So that may have crippled my career. And it still has a chilling effect on my freedom of speech. I was watching videos about a week ago now, again, from kind of soft-core white supremacist, neo-Nazi types. The ones that are really obvious maybe aren't as important to criticize. I was watching a video from the Pettyborn sisters, I forget their names, and their official position on immigration, and those are people who are just trying to ride the fence where they're not quite over the line into outright, overt white supremacy. That's where it's really important to engage in critique. And I put together some clips, and I want to do the video. I think it's something philosophically important to discuss and politically important to discuss. But I know I can get punished by YouTube as if I'm guilty of the political position I'm quoting and criticizing, even though I'm doing something positive when engaged in that critique. Now, would it be possible to have that level of censorship of political speech within YouTube? Maybe. Maybe it would be possible if they devoted a lot of money and a lot of staff to it. Maybe. But I can only say maybe. I see how poorly censorship works within universities, within a university department of political science and that kind of thing. It works very, very poorly. What you need for censorship to work is to have very clear lines drawn in the sand that apply to everyone equally and consistently. I had an employer, he didn't believe in this idea that the age of 18 should be the age of consent. He, whatever, he's an asshole. And I said to him, and nobody had ever really challenged his view on this. Plus, he owned the company. He's a very wealthy, successful businessman. I think nobody challenged his view on anything for years. And I said to him, okay, so your bullshit idea. His idea was that like a woman should be sexually mature when they finish their period, basically, once they're fertile, once they've had their period. I said, okay, sorry. So how do you think Instagram, how do you think YouTube, how do you think anyone is going to enforce that rule? Like the idea of having age, I don't really care if it's 17, 18, or 19. It could be raised to 19 instead of 18. It could be lowered to 17, but whatever. You decide on a year and you say, this is the rule, this is the law, everyone has to obey it. Either you have a driver's license or a passport that says you're 18 years old, or you don't, and that's it. And it has nothing to do with justice. It has nothing to do with accuracy or science. It doesn't have to do with the science of when you finish going through puberty. It has nothing to do with that. It's about having one law, one rule that can apply to everyone equally. Anything that is equal is arbitrary. Arbitrary is not accurate. It's not biology. It's not justice. What's arbitrary is radically incompatible with justice. All right? It has nothing to do with that. Maybe one person mentally is completely ready to do hardcore porn at 19 and someone else is ready at 16. Someone else wouldn't be ready until 25. It's not about psychology. It's not about anything like that. And again, the other big reminder is, why do these arbitrary rules exist? What is the point of creating them? All right? It's not just to prevent and exclude something. It's not just to get rid of porn. It's not just to repress people who are under 18. Okay? It's positively to support the political use of freedom of speech. All right? It's to create and sustain the platform that's necessary so that we can engage in mutual examination, mutual scrutiny, mutual analysis. And that analysis can and must include the use of coarse language and insults. It absolutely must. Political cross-examination, whether it's, of right-wing versus left-wing versus right-wing, whether or not it's just telling your own life story. Just sit down autobiographically and say, hey, here's something that traumatized me. Here's what I went through. Here's my perspective. And to share that on the historical record for your fellow man. Okay? I said this recently. Reality is an acquired taste. It's rough. People coming on YouTube and talking about their real experience, whether explicitly political or not, it's never going to be smooth the way a made-for-TV drama is going to be. It's going to contain violence and broken hearts and tears and swear words. You know what I mean? Even if it's just talking about why you dropped out of school. We dropped out of baking college. I was really beat up about that. Talk about your miscarriage. Talk about your infant being diagnosed with some horrible disease and dying in its crib. Talking about, and then maybe, again, all these things have a political importance. Then maybe you're going to talk about the incompetence of the medical doctors and how the hospital was organized. Now, you think your baby could have survived if things were a bit better. That stuff really matters. It really, really matters. It matters now more than ever. And it's what YouTube is doing. They think they're bailing out the ship, and they're bailing it in. All they're doing is scooping more seawater and putting it into this sinking ship. YouTube, you don't understand how censorship is supposed to work. This is a tool that's powerful and important, and it can be used for good. And it's like seeing a kid that's taking a pencil that could be used to draw a beautiful picture, and instead you're sticking it in your own eye.